Welcome back to another episode of the Dear Fathers podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Alex, also the co-founder of Dear Fathers, which is the premier media platform dedicated to telling stories of Black fathers while providing resources for Black men. I kind of say this every time, man. This is a special episode, but today is really one of them ones, man. So I'm not going to hold y'all too long. I'm going to get straight to it. I want to welcome Grammy-nominated artist, one half of the Clips, really one of the greatest rappers of his era, an amazing father, Pusha T. Welcome to the Dear Fathers podcast, man. How you doing?
Really good. Thanks for having me.
No problem, bro.
Honored to be here.
No, we're honored to have you, man. Like we kind of talked about, before we started recording, you've been tapped into the platform for, a minute. It was always cool to see you kind of tap in with us on Instagram. So it's cool to, tap in with you for the podcast, man. And, our podcast is really just to humanize Black men and Black fathers outside of what you do in your career. So just getting straight into it, man. Like, take us back to your upbringing as a young man. Like, who was Terrence Thornton before he was Pusha T? And like, also, what were your parents like growing up?
Yeah, man, you know, my my upbringing was really good as far as a having a two-parent, very engaged household. Um, you know, my dad was a Um, super hardworking man. He was very meticulous um about taking care of home and instilling the fact that there are no excuses. You know, it's funny to understand and to like, you know, look at yourself in the mirror and know where you get a lot of your isms from, you know? And it's I see myself, I see a lot of my dad in myself and just a lot of his teachings and a lot of his principles and his no nonsense qualities.
Yeah.
Um and just being, just standing as a man and being on man time.
Hmm.
It's my my mother uh my mother is from Norfolk, Virginia. My dad was from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Hmm.
They met each other in New York, working at the post office, and got married and had two kids, two sons. And you know, then we moved back to Virginia, where all of my mother's family was from. And just knowing that, knowing that, and knowing my parents and my dad being in a situation um where he was, married into a family and then moving to that area with the family. And he was, by himself, and his family still stayed, pretty far away in Tennessee. Um and just watching him navigate and be the man um to so many men in our family, and be looked up to by the kids in the family, and so on and so forth, but being the outsider as well. um it was just something that I always admired. I admire watching.
No, that's what's up, man. I love to hear stories like those because, like I mentioned, prior to starting, I grew up without my dad, so I didn't have that
Hmm.
two-parent household. And I always say, like, I feel like I didn't know 50% of who I was. So to hear you say, like, you know where all your isms come from, I think that's super.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, hardworking father, two-parent household. When you and your brother decided y'all wanted to start rapping, like, what was the response to that? Like, because that's like a non-traditional thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, did they support you, or like what was that journey like when y'all started the rap journey?
My parents, they actually weren't supportive.
Mm.
They weren't supportive. I used to remind them a lot about that as well. You know, um, but they were they were brought up differently. They were raised differently. Um, um, my brother was always a writer. He was always a writer into music in that sense, into hip hop in that sense. I remember being the younger brother, and my parents would speak to him about his grades not being good, and if he just engaged in his studies like he did the rap music, it was really an issue. um but yeah, they weren't supportive. They weren't supportive at all, actually.
I'm
And
sure they
and
came
trust
around at
me.
some point, right?
Oh, of
Like,
course they did. Of course. I lost both my parents. I lost both my parents 4 months apart. So I, November 21, I lost my mom, and March March 22, I lost my father. But mind you, I've been in the music game for 20 years. For 20 years, and they've gotten to see all of this.
yeah.
What I'm saying, a lot of it. And I never let them forget that, though. I never let them forget. You remember, like, anytime I bought a car, anytime, anything, I was like, hey, you know what this is from, right? And it was a running joke. It was a running joke, but it was you know, yeah, I'm an I told you so type of guy. So even
What
with
was that
them, it was
moment
that.
though where you knew that they saw the vision? Like, what was that moment for you that you knew they saw the vision?
I Man, I can't pinpoint a moment in which they saw the vision. You got to understand, man, like, all of my friends, my brother's my brother. We were in music together. All of my friends in music were my childhood friends. Like, Pharrell, Chad Hugo, the Neptunes, NERD. These are my real childhood friends. So, um, they never, like, let's speak on the Neptunes per se, because they were the first ones to actually make it.
Mm,
In a production sense, it never mattered. They never really cared. It was never real, you
yeah,
know. And then, I mean, just to give you context, man, well into my career, my mom might call me and be like, "Oh, I heard a song on the radio today," and I'm like,
like that's
baby. Yeah, like, baby. Like, and so, just having that, you know it was, but when they began to see how other people embraced their sons, or how they their friends would call them, or they going to church. They're getting CDs at church now, and we got to switch my mom's church, things like that. So things got a little bit things got a little bit weird at times, with some of those type of happenings, and it was like, these were all wake up calls, like, hey, things are a little different.
yeah. No, I love to hear that story, man. And it seems normal. Like you're doing anything creative, your parents a lot of times are gonna be like, it's not real until it's real, right? So
Hmm.
obviously you are who you are. They caught on at some
Yeah,
point. And we
yeah,
fast forward to today, man. Like, you're one of the greatest to ever do it. So what's your key to like longevity in a career where it's hard to sustain that type of, you said 20 years, right? Like that's hard to do.
yeah.
What's your key to longevity?
I think my key to longevity is staying engulfed in the culture of rap, in the culture of hip hop, and just, being very meticulous and being very strategic in the decisions and in the affiliations and in the brands that that you stand next to, and the people that you stand next to, and just being, um you yourself, becoming a brand that people can trust.
Yeah.
I feel like, when you think about me, or when you think about Pusha T as the artist, um, you think about, man, I can count on street rap from this guy.
Mm.
This is like something that has never switched.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's something that's never switched. Um, you've heard all of the raps. You've heard me talk about, my parents in my raps. You've heard me talk about my grandmother in my raps. You've heard all of the stories that give that are the foundation of me as an artist. Um, you know, uh, and I think that just never straying away from that and never chasing trends
Mhm.
is what has given me the longevity that I have today.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. Like, obviously you got people who may come out with a song and it's hot, but it's always the people who can sustain the test of time, right? That's always going to show what the
Yeah.
true greatness is. People like yourself, the Jay-Z's, the LeBron James, right? Like
Hmm.
to do what you're doing at a high level for that long, man, that's undeniable, just greatness right there. So I commend you on having, such a
Thank
long
you.
career, and it continues to grow and build. And I also wanted to kind of talk about, you recently just did the Pusha T bobblehead night with the Washington Wizards. Like, what's it like
Right.
for you to do something like that in the city that you grew up in? Like, what's something like that mean to you?
Well, listen, to be clear, I didn't grow up there. And
Mhm.
that's what's even like it's even more impressive to me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm from Virginia. I'm from Virginia, Hampton Roads area, the 757 area code. Um, we don't have
The
we don't
team.
have a team. And you know, Washington DC has always been a neighbor that has always embraced us musically, and has always been our escape from just from the area as a youth. From I'm talking about from skipping school to the party scenes and so on and so forth. Like, it's always been where I've gone to get away. um I haven't moved to that area 5 years ago. No, maybe 6 years ago I moved to the area. I lived there for like 5 or 6 years. I came back home. I had a son, and then I bought a place back up there that I'm renovating now, which is going to be my basically my forever home.
Mhm.
Um, which is, just right outside of DC, of course. But
Yeah.
man, it was an honor. Like, when I was up there for that time, I was always engaging with the public. I was always going to the games. Um, I supported any way that I could. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, just being a fan of the area, and and really respecting the area as much as I have. And it was great that they reached out for me to represent um the DMV. I guess I'm the V portion,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and ironically, it's so much it's very territorial. So where I'm from is usually not considered DMV. Where I'm originally from is not considered DMV. That's usually a Northern Virginia type of thing that they, associate with that moniker. Um, Either way, man, I'm glad they reached out. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. I think I'm gonna take my son there. He ain't never been to a basketball game.
Okay.
So I'm a we're gonna have a great time.
No, that's what's up, man. I'm pretty sure it'll be dope. Here at Dear Fathers, we do what we call Dear Fathers Night, where we partner with NBA teams for a pregame panel on fatherhood and mental health. We actually got one coming up at the end of March with the Atlanta Hawks. Hopefully, one day, we can do one with the Wizards and maybe tap you in there. I think that would be super cool. It's a
That'd
very
be dope.
interesting conversation. I think that's something maybe we can do in the future, man. But even bringing up, your son, we're talking about your career. I'm wondering from your perspective, man, like, could you have imagined having a kid earlier in your career, let's say when you were 22, like maybe around the time your career first started? Could you have imagined being a dad then opposed to starting your fatherhood journey where you are right now?
No way. All of my friends um have had kids. I'm the last one.
Mm.
And there is no way. they all had kids early. I grew up with them, godfather to a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there is absolutely no way. I asked them today, like, man, how did y'all do it? Like, how did you like, still run the streets and still, and have like this child at home and, you know, like, how did y'all do it? And it's when I think about it, when I think about myself, there's absolutely no way that I
Mhm.
could have done it. Like this, it's tough doing it now.
Yeah.
Like it's really tough doing it now because I am musically still competing. You know what I'm saying? And time is like the most important thing. Like it's the most important thing when it comes to my son.
Yeah.
So it's like you know, he has a great he has a great mom. He has a great mom, an amazing grandmother. And by the time, I come home from off the road or wherever I've been for weeks at a time, um, I'm trying to be the coolest dad I can be. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, um, and it's really you know, I've realized how much time is important because you miss so many little things in those, 2-week spans, 3-week spans. Um, you know, swim lessons and, and just being, you miss a lot of time being the dad that you really, really could be when you're sitting right next to your son or daughter.
Right. No, that makes total sense, man. And for me, I mentioned, before we started recording, I don't have any kids yet. I started this platform because I grew up without my father. I'm
Mhm.
35 years old. At one point, I was actually scared to have children
Mhm.
because it was kind of this thing of like, just getting through my own, healing or, trauma and things of that nature and not
Mhm.
want to pass that down or bring kids into the world in a messed up place. But now I'm in a comfortable space where it's like, I do want kids in the near future. I'm wondering for yourself, man, like, was there ever any part of your journey where you felt that fatherhood may have not been in the cards for you? And if so, like, what were those thoughts?
I can't say that. I've never thought that fatherhood wasn't for me.
Mhm.
I just knew that it had to be the right time, and I knew the type of opportunities that I wanted to be able to like really bring to my child and just my family. It's not just a child situation. It's a whole family. Um, and so, I like that always was in the back of my mind, regardless of anything that I had was doing and ever did, like family, family, marriage, children was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And um to be able to be that type of uh real, like I grew up with a real dad. Like I really had a real dad. So um I knew that was the criteria. Like he set the bar.
Right.
He really set the bar.
That's what's up, man. Like, I'm scared of like, when I have a kid, having to chase the kid around, you know what I'm saying? I'm a little bit older, my back hurting. You have any of those like
Yeah.
fears? Like
No,
just trying to chase around a toddler or a young kid,
listen,
go out there and
listen,
hoop with you or something, man? Like, what's your thoughts on that when that time comes?
listen. You better be ready, cause my like my son is 3. My son is 3. He'll be 4 in June. Um, Imma just be honest with you. Like I even my health today is all because of him.
Yeah.
Like my focus on health, um, my focus on working out, um, it's all centered around like being able to be, to be that dad when it's time for him, when he's, active and in the sports and so on and so forth. I want to be able to be that dad as well.
Right.
I'm gonna be competitive. I'm like, dog, you can't beat me. Like, we play now. I'm not letting him win in anything. Like, it's not happening. So, it's and that's just the type of dad I want to be.
No, that's what's up, man. And you kind of alluded to something that I can also relate to as well, in terms of like all of my friends already like having children and them going through that process or having kids young. Once you had your son, did the conversations amongst your friend groups change? And then also, I want to know like what's some of the best dad advice that you've received from maybe like one of your industry friends?
Man, all right. So the conversation with my friends definitely has changed because they watched me not have this level of responsibility for so long
Yeah.
when they had it.
Mhm.
So now it's like they already know, like, they know that I'm just like super attention to detail. I'm super anal about things. So they'll know, like, oh, no, listen, man, I know you ain't going. I know you ain't coming out with us tonight because you just got home, Najee. Like they just know the things that when it comes to myself and my time that you know I- they don't even have to second guess. They just know, like, nah, I know you focused. I know you focused with your son right now. um the conversation is like, basically like, yeah, you finally understand, huh? Like you
Mhm.
finally understand, like, and because for so long,
Mhm.
without kids, you never really know.
Right.
um and man, as far as my industry friends, what have they said? um Man,
I'm
I
sure
I
they
c-
dropped some type of gems on you at some point.
no, I will say that Pharrell has been very vocal about like spoiling
Mhm.
and not spoiling, what I'm saying? And like, man, don't let them sleep in the bed with you and get them out the bed and these type of things. But let me tell you something. It's not working.
Right.
It's not working, man. It's not working. But you know, he's a father of four. So he had a lot of experience, of course, once again, before me. So he just be trying to drop little hints here and there, like, hey man, I seen that before, like, hey, but nip that in the bud.
Mhm.
Or and just make sure you make time for your family and family time,
Yeah.
because that's what everybody remembers.
Right. No, that's most important, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And also in one of your past interviews, I remember you talking about like obviously you had your son during the pandemic, right? And the world
Yeah.
was kind of closed down. You weren't moving around as much, so that allowed you to be more present. And you talk about now like navigating your career. What practices do you incorporate now that the world's back open to help you stay present as a father while also like right now you're in the studio, you're traveling, you're doing different things like what practices have you implemented to just help you balance the journey between career and being a dad?
Um, I you know, I I do a lot more family oriented business. Like, when my family can be there, they're there. When my son can be there, he's there. Um, and that's because I'm like, I get sick with being away from home so long. It annoys me. It
Mhm.
annoys me, and I'm sure that my team can even tell. Um, when I'm kind of fed up, or when I'm homesick,
Yeah.
or when I'm getting pictures, or seeing things of progress that I'm missing out on. So I try to just make sure that my family is nearby as much as they can be.
No, that's what's up. I love to hear that, man. That just means that you're invested in the process and wanting to be around. And you mentioned earlier, like, about your wife and, kids, your sons, grandparents and things of that nature. How important for you is it to have a wife who's supportive on your journey and is a good is compatible with you in that sense, where y'all can manage, those expectations effectively. Like, how important is that for you?
Yeah, it's when I think about it, it's probably the most peace of mind that I get. Um, I don't know if we didn't have that type of connection, or if I had to second guess her process or second guess her decision making, it would make life on the road a lot harder for me.
Mhm.
I think that's what I'm most appreciative of, knowing that my son is like, regardless of where I am, he's going to be progressing in whatever it is that he's doing, because, you know, uh, his mom and, his grandmother and whoever the team that they, put around him, down to his nanny. It's like, he makes sure that he's right.
Yeah. No, I
And
love
I
to
and
hear
I
that.
and that within itself um helps me more than anything execute while I'm out here,
Yeah.
or while I'm in here in the studio now.
No, that's dope, man. I know you're cooking up something special in the studio. I wanted to also piggyback on what you said about your upbringing, like with your dad and, him just being that man figure, father figure in the household. Like, that era was way different than it is now. Like, what's your thoughts on
Hmm.
discipline? Like, do you believe in whoopings, or are you more so like a gentle parent? Like, what's your thoughts on that in today's era?
Um, yeah, I feel like my son is only 3,
Mhm.
so whippings is out the question. um, but I do, and mind you, I was raised. I used to get beatings, like, for sure. Like, be clear.
Yeah.
Um, but I find myself talking to him a lot more, and, like, really just, you know, having him try to understand, like why something is wrong, and just really having that dialogue. Um, I don't know. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know if, like, whooping, spankings, whatever you want to call it, I don't know if that's ever gonna come into play. But right now, I don't see it. Right now, I don't see it, and we communicate really, really well. You
Yeah.
know, he goes through his tantrums and things like that, and it's more like, you know, my patience. I don't know. I'm like, I love my son so much that my patience is even different with him. Like, it ain't. I don't got patience like I got. Like, I would have no patience for you. I got all the patience for him. Like, so.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and he's getting to he's gonna get to experience that and
Mhm.
see what that's like.
No, I think that's amazing, man. And I think really that's all it comes down to is communication. I feel like growing up, parents, it wasn't no communicate, man. It's like you do something,
Yeah.
always just, they bringing out the belt. And I think that's all, we need as children is to be able to, somebody to communicate with the child and kind of have those conversations and talk through things and, navigate how to emote or feel their emotions or feel through their feelings.
Hmm.
So what you're saying, I agree with wholeheartedly, man. It's like it's really just comes down to communicating. So I think that's great advice for whoever's listening. And
I gotta add too, man. Like, my son is in school, so, like, he it's a new day. Like, it's a full new day. 3-year-old in school, like, he gets upset, and he does yoga when he gets upset. Like, he does breathing and smell the flowers, and it's just, there's a whole thing I'm being introduced to, like, what I'm
right.
saying, like, a whole nother method. So it's only right for me to try to mirror that energy, especially when he's out in the world, and that's how they um calm him down, and he calms himself down, and watch him calm himself down is like, I'm like, wow, man, like, I'm impressed by that.
No, I'm impressed just hearing you say that, man. I'm
Yeah.
35. I'm just trying to get into the like practices of meditation and things of that nature. Like for him
Right.
at 3 years old, it's like, man, like you said, it's a new era. And I wonder, even for you in like this era of your music, right? Like, do you look at your music and your career through a new lens now that you have a son?
Um, I can't say that I do. I think that I think I look at life through a new lens. Like, and the the goal every the goal every day is to make it back home to my son. Like that's just the goal. So like, you know, um my my mindset, my decision making, my you know, um, situations, all of those things are based on, how would that affect my son in the long run?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just, I don't even,
All right.
I don't do anything without that consideration
Yeah.
these days. Nothing.
I'm assuming that switch just kind of turns on because like you well established in your career and in your life.
Mhm.
So like sometimes we get stuck in our ways in a sense as we get a little bit older, but I'm assuming you having a son like that was just an automatic switch where it's like
Yeah.
gotta change some things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 1000%. I mean, I just, you know, it's weird for me because making the music that I like to make, um, it puts me in places. It's putting me in a lot of different places and spaces.
Mhm.
Um, the energy that comes with that music and where I find a lot of that inspiration, it can get tricky.
Mm.
It can get really tricky. So it's just about uh knowing how to move in certain places and really just doing your job, man. Like this is work. This is
Mhm.
where I'm working for him, as a matter of fact. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. I'm working for my son.
Right.
So it's like,
I was
I
gonna
just go ahead.
say,
No, I was just, so it's that just never leaves the back of my mind. Like that never leaves the back of my mind. And at the same time, it's a fine line to walk because this is street hip hop, and this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I love. This is the type of music I love. It's I'm watching the world get edgy and get corporate world get edgy and lean into me, whether um lean into me for many things. So it's like it's being accepted. It's just like there's always those dark areas or those gray spaces that you got to walk sometimes.
yeah, no, I totally agree. And you kind of mentioned the inspiration and it being like a fine line when it comes to those things and navigating. Now, since you have a
Hmm.
son, I'm curious to know, like, you had a particular like rap beef or whatever the lack of better words, years ago where there was something that was brought up centered around fatherhood in one of your lines. You didn't have a son then, but you
Hmm.
have a son now. Do you look at that any differently now that you have a son, or would you have handled that particular situation the same, or kind of what's your viewpoint on that now that you kind of see things from a different view and having a son?
No, that was war.
It's like all is fair in war, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and like, I feel like, that that was, uh, that was, you call it rap beef or, whatever, however you want to categorize it. Um, it was very real to me. It was very real to me. And to me, like how I look at fatherhood and how I look at that the whole notion of it, um, you know, that should never be able to be an angle.
Mhm.
You know, that couldn't be an angle for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you just, you know, I, I just look at things differently, man. I look at things differently, and I feel like I look at things through a
Mhm.
very real lens, and I think that's why people gravitated towards
Yeah.
you know, um, uh, 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 that song for sure.
No, I got you, man. And can you also speak about like, everything that you got going on from the music to the business to the fashion, all these things that you're doing for your son, right? Like, what
Yeah.
does legacy mean to you? Like, and I guess like, what does it mean for you to, or how important is it for you to, I guess like make your son's path easier than yours? Like, I'm curious to know what you think about that.
Oh yeah. Like I think that I think that is my job. I think my job specifically is to make sure that my son has an easier way to go.
Mhm.
I feel like um and listen, easier way to go only so that he can have the clarity to, choose his path without distraction. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Um, and choose, whether it's career path, whatever it is that he's into. I want him to be able to see that clearly without um without worrying about, responsibility in certain ways that can be overbearing, that can make you choose something that you have to do versus something you love to do.
Right.
And that's just that's the biggest part of bringing a child into this world. Just really making sure that they have an open book of opportunities,
Yeah.
and they have, making sure that they have that clarity to navigate the world how they want to, because you've set that foundation for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And I think, that's something I resonate with as well as wanting that for my, son or daughter when I bring them into the world. And I think as in the Black community, man, like we got this fascination with always getting it out the mud. Like, and I think like it's important to your kids not have to get it out the mud, right? Like you set a
Right,
foundation
right.
so they ain't got to. So like what you're
Mhm,
saying, I agree with wholeheartedly, man. And I want to kind of take it back to something you mentioned earlier in terms of your parents. Like in 2021,
mhm,
you lost both of your parents 4 months apart. Like
mhm.
grieving is a tough process, and I'm pretty sure you're still going through that every single day, or it comes up in different instances. But I'm curious, like, what did you take from your mom and what did you take from your dad in terms of who you are as a father? Like, what things have you taken from them that shows up in your journey as a dad today?
um well, with my mom, I would say that I've taken the whole she has a she had a whole way about herself when it came to her kids. It was like the kids never did no wrong. She was like, there was a certain loyalty that she had with us.
Mhm.
Um and I see that. I see that in my son. Like, he can be wrong. He can be wrong is all outdoors.
Mhm.
But I'm still giving him that benefit of the doubt. And I always got the benefit of the doubt from my mom. Um, she also was always an open door. Like, she, raising us, and I have another brother and a sister. Um, raising all of us. She um she really had an open door policy. It was nothing that she couldn't take, in hearing, like, the good, the bad, the ugly. Um, and I hope that myself and my son have that same open door policy. Um, as far as my dad, it's my dad was really um he really lived for the the marathon of it all. He always looked towards the future. And I really hope I can instill in my son that um just instilling him like to don't, to always look down the road, always plan for down the road. My dad planned, man, he planned very, very, very meticulously for um even in his death. Even in his death, like for his two sons. He was like, "Man, I got y'all." And I'm like, it was weird. I mean, it was kind of weird to me, um, knowing, and not to go too deep into it, but like, dog, I'm a real artist out here. What are you planning for me for? Like you like dad, like I'm like I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? Like you like as much as you might not have, wanted it to or believed at first, but dog,
I'm
you're
good.
clear. You're
Yeah,
clear. You're clear. And just still watching how he had things mapped out and laid out, man. Me and my brother laugh about it all the time. Just like, man, this guy was different.
that's just who he was.
That's just who he was, really. And I hope that I can instill that in my son. Like, cause it gives you a sense of peace through that grieving process that, he this is just who, just knowing who your father was and knowing that he was even taking care of you after, even when he didn't have to. It just lets you know like what type of bond that y'all had.
That's what's up, man. I love to hear that. And just getting into, something that we like to do here at Dear Fathers is a hypothetical letter to your dad. So, like, if you could write a letter to your dad starting with Dear Father, what would you say to him?
Dear father, um, man, I, I really miss you. I miss you, and I am um one of the biggest regrets is you not being able to see my son grow up in the physical. Because you would have been a great granddad, an awesome grandfather as you started out being. Um, and just I appreciate you. I appreciate you for everything you instilled in me. I appreciate you for teaching me um uh the importance of dedication, the importance of organization, the the importance of just looking looking ahead to the future and planning for any and everything that there is to come. And also, my dad had this awesome quality. Um, well, I'll keep writing. Dad, you had this awesome quality that there was never a problem that was too big. You could fix it all. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you for that, Pops.
No, I love that, man. And I appreciate you just, kind of sharing that letter. That's one thing that's super important to us here at
Yeah,
Dear
man.
that. So, I appreciate you for sharing. And just to kind of, lighten it up a little bit, like, a few things before we get out of here. We like to do something we call dad trivia, man. And in this instance,
Okay.
it's centered around rap lyrics. Now,
Okay.
I'm not the greatest rapper, but I'm hoping you as a rapper, you can tell, kind of the
Okay.
inflection of these lyrics. So I'm gonna spit three lyrics for you, and you got to guess who rapped them. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
All right, so we're gonna start with number one. Who would have thought I'd be the dad I never had, be the husband I become? Usually nothing comes from that.
Who would have thought I'd be the dad I never had, the husband I become?
Usually nothing comes from that.
Usually nothing comes from that. Mm.
It's someone he's in your era of rap. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you've had songs with this guy.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with Kanye.
Close though. It's
Hove.
Jay-Z
Hove. Hove.
444 Adness, the name of the song. So it was
Yeah.
Jay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got Here go number two for you. You ready?
Okay.
But every time I wanted a layaway or a deposit, my dad'll say, when you see clothes, close your eyelids.
That gotta be yay.
Yeah, that's yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number three, you ready?
Hmm.
Rather build a legacy for my son that's important for him. Real estate just rewarding him. Generational wealth when I'm gone, he's still flourishing.
Shit,
Huh?
that's myself.
Okay, man. If you didn't get that one, man, I was gonna be a little upset, man. But that was a great
Right.
line, and it kind of resonates with everything you spoke about today, man. So 2 for 3 on the dad trivia, man. I appreciate
Yes.
you. But let the people know what's next for you. What you got coming up? What you got coming out? What you want people to tap into?
Man, listen, I'm working on this music. I got 2 or 3 projects coming. You know, you guys are seeing me in Paris every other week. You know, the fashion is flourishing. Everything's coming, man. Just stay tuned. It's gonna be a hot summer.
Nah, man, we definitely gonna stay tapped in with you, man. Once again, man, this is super therapeutic for me just to learn a little bit more about you as a black man, as a father, man. Like you've dropped some gems for me that I'm going to be thinking about, as I get into my journey of fatherhood, man. So the Dear Fathers audience, we appreciate you for tapping in with us. And yeah, we're gonna stay tapped in, man. So thank y'all for tuning into another episode of the Dear Fathers podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and stay locked in anywhere you get your podcast. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks for having me.